Hyundai and Kia owners, got an interesting conversation. It's probably in your best interest to listen to this video. Got a few pointers and tips about your car. Might be a car that's easy to be stolen. I'm going to go ahead and give you a list of cars, Kia and Hyundai, that are prone to this. Let's dive into it. So, what is going on with the Hyundais and the Kias being stolen left and right? Apparently it's a kid thing. Mostly a kid thing. There are people that are older doing this, they're on drugs, and they've learned from the kid TikTok videos. Okay, so back in about 2021, I believe, just after COVID, there are these teens from Wisconsin. A big shout out. You guys can thank Milwaukee, Wisconsin for having your car stolen here in the last few years because of these kids. Instead of listening to the teacher and reading and writing and do what they should be in school, they're off stealing cars and passing this around on TikTok while they're in class. So, like I said, this started in Milwaukee. Now it's everywhere because of the Kia Boys Challenge. I'm sure you've heard of the Kia Boys Challenge. There's not a lot going on the internet about this anymore. Of course, these cars are still being stolen. Now, Kia and Hyundai have offered, and they have gotten recalls put into these vehicles, certain model years. But some people, of course, they go poo-poo and they go, I don't need to take this car to the dealer. I'll just use a club, or I'll just park it on this side of the street under the street light. Few things. There's a lot of misconceptions about this. First of all, it's not just a USB drive that's able to steal these. Now, I'll get into what's called an immobilizer here in a minute. But the kids are using these USB-A type, not USB-C, not the small one. Got to be the old school, the first generation USB. Now, a misconception is a lot of people think that they have some kind of electronic gizmo that they plug in and then they plug it into the car. That's not what's going on. That's far from it. It's pretty low tech, guys. So what they do is they break the column cover off, you know, the shroud that goes around right in front of the dash cluster behind the steering wheel. They pop that apart and they get in there, screw around, break the part of the ignition where the key goes in, and they get to the back of the actual starting tumbler switch, and this USB-A goes right in there, and it perfectly fits into the slot. Why they chose to use these or make a big deal about it, USB, you could use a screwdriver, you could use a pointed edge jagged rock. Anything could go in there and turn the tumbler. So, what really surprised me, I did a lot of research on this before I even bothered to make this video, but this actually really surprised me. And a lot of these model year, and I'll read the model years off here in a minute on both manufacturers, they actually did not put an immobilizer, guys, in these cars in these certain years that I'm going to read off here in a list here in a minute, which blew me away. I had no idea. Something else to keep in mind. Back in the old days, before there was immobilizers, they had steering locks. And if you didn't have the right key to actually turn the key over, or a jiggler set, or whatever they were using, car thieves back in the day, it would not unlock the ignition, which means you could not turn the steering wheel. All these modern cars, guys, they do not have steering locks on them, which means when you turn the big off and you've got the key fob in your pocket, you walk away from the car, you need that key fob in order to start the car, but you can still turn it. Now, the tow truck industry, guys, they love these new modern cars. They're so easy to take. All they got to do is basically go in there when they're towing or repossessing your car, get into the vehicle, and steer the steering wheel. Back in the old days, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, you couldn't do that because they were locked in position. They were a pain in the butt for the tow guys. So, these modern cars, they do have immobilizers, but no steering locks. Now, these other cars are the other way. The non-push-to-start cars do have steering locks in most cases. So, from about 2011 to 2022, they have these problems where they're easily able to be stolen because of no immobilizer. It started in some models, I believe it was as early as 08, but main models are 2011 through 22. So we've got a good year span there. I mean, you know, almost 12 years of cars, and that covers a lot of cars. Think about all the Hyundais and Kias that have running around that are in that year range that are able to be stolen. It's a lot of cars, guys. So, we've covered the USB thing. It does not plug in to any part of the car and electronically turn it on. That's a myth. We've got through that. Now, Most of these models, like I said, 2011 through 2022, it covers a lot of models, and it goes from 2015 to 2022, and some different models. It varies in age and via model with both manufacturers. So I'm going to read the list here. 2011 to 2021 Kia Forte, 2010 to 2022 Kia Soul, 2011 to 21 Kia Optima, 2011 to 2022 Sorento, 2011 to 2022 Sportage, and 2011 to 2021 Kia Sedona. These are all the Kia models, folks. If you're in that range, you might want to consider going in to get the recall, or I'll tell you about the other thing that the dealer's handing out as far as an insurance safety measure for you as well. Let's get into Hyundai. 2011 to 2021 Accent, 2011 to 21 Elantra, 2011 to 21 Sonata, 2013 to 2018 Hyundai Santa Fe Sport, 2011 to 21 Tucson, and 2012 to 2017 Hyundai Veloster, and the last one is the Hyundai Venue, which is 2020 to 2021. So if you're in any of that range, guys, consider going and getting the recall. All this recall is they don't actually take anything apart. There's something else I wanted to get schooled up on real quick. They were actually talking about gluing these plastic shrouds that go around the ignition housing. So like we talked about, just in front of the column, you've got that black flat piece where the turn signal goes in, and then you've got your cruise control and all that with the ignition. They were actually talking about taking those apart and super gluing both of those together and putting them together so you cannot get them apart. Now, they're just plastic. You can bust those with a screwdriver or a knife or whatever you've got. It's really not going to stop anything, especially if somebody's in there in the dark of the night. They'll get it busted open. It might take them another 4 or 5 minutes, but they'll get it off and they'll get in there and get what they need to get done. So, that was a myth. They were talking about doing that, but they didn't. What they are doing is if you've gotten the recall, they'll also give you a club. You know, the old school clubs that go across the wheel so you can't turn them. So that's back to the 80s, man. That's the 70s, 80s, 90s. That's the old school way. I mean, to be honest, if you wanted to be safe, here's the problem that I foresee. Even if you have a car that's been updated and it's never been stolen, if you go ahead and put that club on there, you're saving yourself time. Because maybe those people don't know that you've updated the car and it's unstealable with the USB drive. Now you've seen and you've put it on display that you have a club on the steering wheel, so they're going to be like, oh man, let's just forget this one that's got a club on it. Take too long to steal. The sucky part about that is, guys, when the thief comes up to your car, or kids or whoever it is looking to steal that car, and they don't see anything in the car that they want to steal, but they want to steal the car, they're going to go ahead and break out the windows, jimmy the door, however they get in it, then they're going to sit there and try to start it. Folks, you've already costed yourself hundreds of dollars because they've broken the glass out, they've messed up the door locks maybe, and stolen your personals out of it. So you got to think, I mean, is it worth it to own one of these rigs and still possibly get it broken into because they still think they can steal it even though they can't? Something to keep in mind. Another thing I wanted to go over, after 2022 is when the cutoff date, as we just talked about here. They went back to a push to start. Now these push to start rigs, 2022 and newer, they went back to a push to start, which means they have an immobilizer. Folks, these rigs are just about unstealable. But this means the steering wheel can still turn because there's no steering lock in these vehicles. So keep that in mind. After 2022, they went back to a push to start. Something else. You remember back in the day when I was growing up, it was always Hondas that were being stolen. Hondas had immobilizers in them. They had chip keys. Thieves learned how to get around these immobilizers, and they learned how to get around these door lock tumblers. I believe they were like a 4 or a 5 lock tumbler system in there. Hondas were so easily stolen back in the day. It was unbelievable. I mean, they were getting stolen right and left. It was a game for the kids back then. And that's what the Kia Boy Challenge was all about. They didn't necessarily steal anything out of your car. They didn't wreck it. They basically just went into it in a parking garage, maybe outside of your house. They broke into it. They stole it. They drove it around for an hour, and they parked it. And they parked it next to another Kia or Hyundai that they know they could steal. And they would steal that one. So you'd have your rig in a different spot across town, and they would go off and steal another one and just joyride all day, every day. They would do that. Isn't that crazy? I mean, you're stealing a rig just to joyride it, and then you go park it at somebody else's house, swap cars, and steal their car. Unbelievable. That's what kids do for fun these days, I guess. Get a job, do something with your life. Well, like I said, we can thank Milwaukee, Wisconsin folks. And you know what? In my other videos, I'm not a Hyundai or Kia guy. I mean, yeah, they're stepping up their game. They're trying to change things. You know, they're offering, obviously, the recalls. They're offering all these powertrain warranties. Not a Kia guy, not a Honda guy. I think if you want a good car, guys, Honda and Toyota. Just remember, Honda and Toyota. Japanese cars. Stick with Japanese cars. If you want to be a Korean car person and you had good luck with them back in the 90s because you bought an old Accent and drove it until the wheels fell off, that's on you, but stay away from these new Hyundais and Kias. I don't recommend them. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.